Why do we vote? This is one of those questions which nobody asks because everybody assumes that the other person knows the answer. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, or maybe everybody has a different answer. Welcome to ELI10, where we ask simple questions which have some big answers. And to answer this very big question, no, it's actually a simple question. To give the big answers, we have with us today Shivam Shankar Singh. This introduction will end here. I am wearing different clothes today. What you will see after this is the pilot episode of ELI10. We made a goof up in the introduction part of it. So, what you will see is the actual conversation with Shivam Shankar Singh, which is a very fun conversation. So, you will see it now. And I am in different clothes, and my hair is all grown magically. Enjoy the conversation. I am Meghnad, and to answer this simple question with big answers, I have with me Shivam Shankar Singh. Hello, Shivam.
Hello. Great to be here, Meghnad.
And before I introduce Shivam to you, though, we have a third person here with us. Hello, Niveditha Prakasam.
Hello. It's
So
nice to
there's
be
a
here.
reason why, yes, there's a reason why Niveditha is here because we had not told her who the guest is going to be. We had not told her what the topic is going to be. And we want her to be the union leader of spectators.
All
अगली
right.
बार से हम एक साइन लगा देंगे इसके पीछे यूनियन लीडर ऑफ स्पेक्टेटर्स द आइडिया इज दैट आई विल नॉट बी वेटिंग फॉर यूट्यूब कमेंटर्स टू कम इन एंड देन गिव क्वेश्चंस she is the representative a human form of YouTube comments right now. Nivedita, are you ready?
I'm ready to be hated by everybody that I'm representing. Because I mean, she's not as smart as us. We're smarter. We're smarter than that lady. This is going to be interesting.
Yes, I think let's get right into it. But first, let me introduce Shivam to you, Nivedita.
All
Uh,
right.
so, so Shivam Shankar Singh is actually a friend. So I know him from my LAMP fellow days.
Ooh.
He used to work with PD Rai, if I'm not wrong. PD Rai is this
Yep.
MP from Sikkim, and I
Mm.
used to work with PD Rai also before him. So he has done some very interesting things in life. He has written two books. One is this one, The Art of Conjuring Alternate Realities, which
Mm-hmm.
is about realities, right? And the other one is on elections, how to win an Indian election. So that is what he has done, and he has worked on Indian elections extensively. He has worked. He has done campaign management. He's a basically a data analyst.
All
And
right.
one of the favorite things I think he has done, which I really like, is he did this analysis of parliamentary questions, like in a very nerdy way, and figured out that it's a scam. So, yeah,
Wow.
that's Shivam for you.
Yeah,
You
I
know
don't think
what?
we're
I'm
allowed to
just
call it a scam. We're just allowed to say there
No,
are
no,
issues and discrepancies in the.
loopholes.
allegedly a scam.
Yeah.
I've never met
Allegedly.
anybody in this field of work ever in my life. This is very interesting. So now everything like all the assumptions we have as laymen, I will get to confirm tonight. I mean today.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's precisely you're the union leader for a
yeah,
reason.
yeah.
So, so Shivam,
It's kind of
uh,
intimidating, but I'm
yes. Oh,
okay.
it's not intimidated. Wait, are you feeling intimidated by this whole setup?
Just by the fact that you know so much about the political world, is like, and now I can't like shit my way through this. You know,
But you know what? We were just talking
you
about
want
this,
me to?
Shivam and me. No, no, please go right ahead, go crazy, be noob, be stupid, be whatever you want. Because me
Awesome.
and Shivam were talking about this like earlier when you were also there, that we know each other for 7 years now. We've been talking about politics and stuff for a while. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we might go into territories where you would be like, guys, please reel it back. मेरे को कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. That is precisely what I want you to do.
That's
Is
awesome.
control our nerdiness.
I'm your man. I'm your
Yes.
man.
So Shivam, let's dive right into it. What? Why do we vote? Why do we vote?
Yeah. So ultimately, there are a lot of governance systems around the world. There's a monarchy where there is like one person who's the absolute ruler. Then there are autocracies. Then there's a democracy. All of these are essentially forms of government. Democracy is just considered a better form of government for a couple of reasons. The first one being it's a bloodless form of changing who the government is. If you live in an autocratic regime and you're very unhappy with the government, you essentially have no choice except to step out on the streets to protest, to actually get into physical violence and overthrow a government. If you live in a monarchy, that's pretty much like it's going to be the next guy's son who comes in and who's going to rule. It's going to be a family dynasty who controls the power forever. Democracy, that way, is a beautiful concept because if you think about it, every 5 years you're having a revolution. You're essentially people coming together, binding together, and
Ah.
overthrowing a government that they don't like. And they're doing it in an absolutely peaceful way. And whatever the mandate is in a functional democracy, the party in power accepts it, just steps down and moves away, and a new guy comes into power. Uh,
So you're
this
saying, unlike the French Revolution where someone has to get beheaded to change the regime, we are basically just ये party को हटा देते हैं types, and we will just
essentially.
yeah
So at the very core, that's what democracy is. It's just a means of changing the government in a peaceful manner. Uh,
yeah.
the important facet of a democracy is that the power to change the government lies with each and every citizen. And
Hmm.
how rich you are or how poor you are, how much of a military force you have with you, how much land you control. None of this matters in a democracy. What matters is that, okay, you're one human being, so you get one vote. In that sense, it provides a certain level of equality to all the citizens in the country because there's no other facet, not like at a socioeconomic level, not at what assets you own, not at the kind of educational level you attain. The voting booth is the only place where all the citizens of a nation are truly equal because everyone gets just one vote.
Yeah,
And
okay. Go
yeah,
on. Finish. Then I have many
Uh,
questions.
okay. And ultimately, the concept is that interests will align in such a manner that people will vote to further their best interests. And in that way, like they'll bring in the government to power that they expect to do the best for them.
Hmm. I have one problem with this, but Nivedita, I wanted to ask you: have you voted
I have.
ever?
I have
You have.
voted.
When did you vote?
I've voted 3 times now.
Oh,
Once as
nice.
soon as I turned, yeah. Yeah. I'm very particular about voting. The only time I didn't vote was the previous election, I think, because I
Oh,
just moved out of the city and I wasn't there in my the city that I'd registered in.
constituency. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't in
Mhm.
the constituency. So that's the only time I didn't vote. But now again, I will go back to my constituency to vote because I voted this time and I got a new
Oh,
voter's ID and everything. Yeah. I'm very excited about this. So the next time I will probably move back. But yeah, I'm very particular about voting because it makes me feel important. It's
yeah.
the only
No,
thing.
that's what
It
I
really
wanted
does.
to.
It makes you feel
Yeah,
important. Yeah.
that's actually what I wanted to ask you, and I think Shivam, you can also answer that maybe. I was thinking that sure, we are like, oh, vote karna chahiye. It's important. Democracy banana hai. Like every vote is equal, as you said. Uh, people are equal, etc. But if I look at the stats also, like 2019, we had 67% people voting, right? Which means 33% of the people did not vote. So now it might be someone like Nivedita who is in a different city, can't vote because their voting ID is not there, or they might be dead and their electoral rolls say name didn't go off, or they might be in the hospital, or they might have other things to do, which is okay. But there is also another factor: laziness, or the need to not even think that you have to go vote. Now, I don't want to shame anyone here. I don't intend to do that. I'm not the election commission with shaming ads. But I just want to understand from Shivam and Nivedita both, why do people think that it doesn't matter to vote? Some of them.
I actually have a very recent example of this. In the
Okay, go on.
last Tamil Nadu state elections that I voted at, one of my aunts didn't vote. Like the entire family didn't vote. All right, they were the only relatives of mine that didn't vote. And on the family group, everyone was like, she tried to bully the rest of us who were voting. Though, like she said to us that, oh, what is the point of voting? And anyway, whoever comes to power, it's your fault. Like, as she was trying to say that, whoever comes is gonna ruin the state and it's going to be your fault. And then she asked us who we voted for, and
Hmm.
another aunt of mine went, whoever wins, that's who we voted for. Like, it was like a
That's a
pretty
great answer.
snarky comment
That's a great answer.
to my aunt, and everybody took her side because everybody else voted. So it wasn't like we were shaming her, but I think she was getting defensive about it. So yeah, it was very fun. It was a very tense moment on our family group
I
at
could
that
see.
time.
But
Yeah.
that's actually a great answer. So, Shivam, I wanted to come to that exactly about I don't think we should reveal who we vote for. It's a personal choice. It is who I chose. I feel like that is the best thing to do. But according to you, because you have been on the ground, where does this apathy come from? Where people don't go to vote for no
So,
reason
so
other than laziness or disinterest?
I think ultimately there are different types of apathy. The one that Nivedita is talking about is definitely a big part of it. There are a lot of people who don't directly get affected by the politics of this country. Just because they're in a kind of employment, they're at a socioeconomic status, they're in a state where politics just does not change their daily lives as much. Say for someone else, their daily life might get really affected by politics because they're dependent on government schemes, they're dependent on the government schools and hospitals, they're
Hmm.
really dependent on the kind of service delivery mechanism the government has and the amount of corruption that the government has at a local level. Or they might be in a business or profession where the political party in power matters, and they need to get government contracts, and they need to get like a specific piece of legislation out from the government. So there are these two types of people. So for people like you and me, Meghnad, it potentially whoever comes into power matters slightly less than a lot of these other different groups. We care a lot about who comes into power for sure, but in our daily day-to-day lives, unless like a regime just turns against us because we are in the media, I don't
Yeah.
think it matters that much potentially. But yeah, that last one is a major part of how democracies transform over time. If you look at Indian villages where a person's vote actually like does change who comes into power, and that does change their daily lives, there are a lot of people
Hmm.
who don't care over there either, and there are a
Like, for
few reasons.
example, give me like a normal example of this. Like, how will
Okay,
a life change?
okay. So you look at a state like, say, Bihar, for example.
Right,
Everyone knew if Nitish Kumar comes in, alcohol is going to get banned. That was one of his major
right.
election promises. So in that case, whoever drinks, their life absolutely transforms. But also the women in their family who now have larger savings because the husband is not going out and spending on alcohol. Also, a
Hmm.
lot of people involved in the illicit liquor trade who can earn a lot more if alcohol does get banned. So there are a
Right.
lot of different interest groups who like really are affected by these policy changes. If there is a government who's more corrupt, like if you look at a state like UP, uh, Yogi Adityanath coming back to power, a major part of it is the ration delivery that happened during COVID. So
That's
people
true.
were getting double the ration at essentially free, and it was
Hmm.
happening without corruption in the system, which
Hmm.
was actually really impressive. So people vote for different reasons. Some people might vote for Hindutva, some people might vote for a strongman image, but some people will vote just for the free ration because it's more than the
Yeah.
previous government was delivering. So
It's
just
interesting, Shivam. Sorry, just
yeah.
interrupting here. Nivedita, so I was also on the election trail during the last UP elections, right? And
Hmm.
in Delhi, there was this, wave of Akhilesh will come back, or like he will actually defeat Yogi. Initially, there was this thing, right? And or at least he will majorly affect his political fortunes in the coming elections. But when you went to the ground, no, we realized that everybody loves Yogi. Like, literally, that he had such a giant following, and not just Yogi, Modi. So there's this double engine sarkar thing they were doing. Ki Modi in the center, Yogi in the state, etc., and whatever. But the interesting thing was that in the pandemic, there are these images that came out, right, where Ganga cave Kinare, there are like these bodies lying around, and people were like, "Ki, oh my God, such misgovernance, such shit is happening." But actually, the opposite happened. People in UP actually credit Modi for saving them, and Yogi. How he gave them 500 rupees directly in their bank accounts for 3 months. That's all it took. for a person who does not have any income or on a regular basis earns like 1500 rupees a month, 500
Hmm.
rupees coming for free directly to their bank account every month was so huge for them, right? It has never happened in their life before. It's direct benefit transfer. There is no corruption involved. They don't have to go and beg to anyone कि मेरे को ये पैसा दे दो, मनरेगा का मुझे ये पैसा दे दो. 3 months, so 1500 rupees everyone in UP got, and everybody was thrilled that Modi ji ने हमारी जान बचाई. लॉकडाउन कर दिया वॉट एवर, बट 500 रुपए भी दिए, राइट. एंड ही ऑन टॉप ऑफ इट ही गेव गैस, he gave ration, he made sure that everybody is fed, he made sure that basic needs are met. So people genuinely didn't care how many people were dying around them, because as long as they are surviving, even that, it was a big thing for them. So I think for those people, if I'm not wrong, Shivam, voting for BJP was dependent on these factors more than, say, a Hindutva factor.
Exactly. Exactly. So a lot of these people, though, too, like would not go out and vote just because they're like, oh, BJP is coming back with an overwhelming majority. So a lot of times people just don't vote because they think our party is doing well enough. We don't need to go out and vote. This sometimes turns into a
Mm.
major problem in a lot of states, and parties need to do like get out the voter campaign and really send like auto rickshaws at the last day during the polling day to pull their supporters out, because the supporter is just so confident that their party is winning that they're like, okay, yeah, why do I even need to travel? Why do I need to put in the effort? So there is that laziness too, even for people who really support a political party. Then ultimately, the third type of person who is the person who just doesn't know who to vote for. Some elections you meet
Yes.
these people who are like, I don't think there is a better alternative. I think it's pretty much like all the same, or I just don't understand enough. For
Is this the
them,
Nota people?
so if they were forced to go out and vote, they might vote Nota. But most of the people who would be voting Nota just decide not to vote because ultimately,
Right.
like, there isn't much of a point of hitting the Nota button either. So this class of people, like, I think the failure really lies with the candidates, because it ultimately means that no one was able to like galvanize their imaginations and like just capture their
Mm.
thought on like why they should be voting and why this candidate is better than that candidate. To them it remained like everyone's the same. So yeah,
Mm.
different types of apathy. It all comes
Apathy.
out as, oh, the voting percentage is low, but the ways to tackle all of these are very different from each other.
Nivedita, I wanted to ask you, is there like a particular criteria that you keep in mind when you go to vote, or is it like party symbols, or do you do research of any sort before you go to vote? What do you do?
I actually, when every time I've voted, it has always been for a local party, obviously, because we only work with. So in Tamil Nadu, it's affiliations, right? So you don't really vote for the center directly. You vote for
Yeah.
your local party, and then whoever they're affiliated to in the center,
Yeah.
those guys get the vote from the state, right? So for us, the pressure is a little less, I'm assuming, because for us, we're just like it's a very local affair, and so I'm not
Mm.
we're not usually very confused because in Tamil Nadu we basically just want to vote out the person who's been ruling. So we get sick of one guy, we go to the other
Anti-incumbency.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just don't want one person to have too much power for too long. You know what I mean? And there's just like for a very long time there was just two parties. So it
Yeah.
really wasn't very hard to like vote, especially when there
Mm.
was really no other competition for anybody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
a lot of times, but I would say that like the person who was running in my constituency has sometimes had a lot of influence over me because they were
Mm.
just a better person, like just very blatantly a better person than the other guy. And
Right.
so even if I didn't have any major influence from the party itself, I would have an influence from the person who was running in my constituency, and
So
that
you
would
do
make
look at
me
the person.
I definitely look at the person, yeah, because it just makes things
Right.
easier. Because at some point you think everybody is the same, you know, especially like you were talking about freebies. That's very famous in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is very popular for like giving people freebies. And they call it freebies. But if you ask a Tamil Nadu politician, they'll deny it. They'll say this is not a freebie. This is a socialist um, thing that we're
Welfare.
doing. Like, yeah, it's welfare.
Yeah.
It's not. But you will know that right now, if like our current finance minister, Mr. PTR, just told us that we
Hmm.
all owe Tamil Nadu, the state, like some 2 lakhs or something. He just like announced it. He said, by the way, every family in Tamil Nadu owes us 2 lakhs. That's how much we've spent on you or something. And we're like, hey, you don't tell us these things. Like, what are you putting the blame on us for? Like, what are we? So we voted for you, so you do these things for us, not tell us that we owe you back. What's going on? So people were a little annoyed by that. But yeah, yeah, they
No,
have
this
given us
is
a lot of freebies. Yeah,
yeah. And I think freebies is all for par. I mean, like there is like this
yeah,
weird debate on freebies and what is welfare freebies. We will actually, that's actually a great question to ask also. But I wanted to actually come to this point about again about voting percentage, right? So I was looking at some stats, right? So 67% voted in 2019. Do you guys know which was the highest voting percentage state? Because each state may it was varied, right? Some had wildly high voting rates and some had wildly low ones.
uh
So
huh.
guess who which was the highest one?
Mm,
Shivam would
I
know.
would.
Shivam would no, nobody knows. Lakshadweep Island was the highest one.
Whoa,
Oh
check
wow.
Yeah,
that
with
out.
85%. And the second highest was actually the one that Shivam worked in, Tripura, which was
Yeah, that's the one I was going
83.2%.
to guess. That's
Yeah.
Whoa, why
Okay.
is that?
Then that's the one you were going to guess. Why?
yeah. Just because that was the highest that I had ever seen.
Oh, okay. But like when you were working there, were there signs that people were super enthusiastic about voting there?
So that's a consequence of there being a left front government for 20-25 years. People really care about elections, and people really care about the news cycle itself. And the
Oh,
amount of newspaper reading I've seen on the streets of Tripura, I've never seen anywhere else.
matlab you're saying that voting percentage is actually directly correlated to education or
Uh,
literacy,
so
awareness.
it's directly correlated to people's involvement and interest in politics.
Right. And who will be more interested in politics? Like, as you said, like one is this category of people who are getting direct benefits from the government. But other than that, is there like a specific reason why people should be interested in politics?
So in a state like Tripura, what essentially it is that everyone is consuming a lot of political media. So just in the form
Mm.
of newspapers and just talking to each other, the conversation is very political centric, and a lot of it is actually ideology. It's about
Mm.
seriously the right wing versus the left wing, and actually debating what a communist government will look like versus what a BJP right wing government will look like. So just the discussions around these issues is so prevalent in the state that I believe a lot of people just go out and vote because they ideologically feel aligned with one side or the other eventually, because they've been discussing it for the past 5 years, right? So a
Oh,
lot of people
interesting.
just end up having a stance just because of it.
That's
I
very
have a
different from what Nivedita said, right? You go on, sorry.
I have a question about the Tripura way of voting. So now, do people in since it's like a much higher percentage, is it because they're more invested in the central government? Like, do they care more about like national leaders or their own local leaders? When who is part of that political discussion? Are they looking at it the bigger picture or like only their state?
So it's mostly only the state. Tripura, I actually have data. So I can tell you that about 43% of the people vote based on party. About 26 to 27% of the people actually look at their local candidate. 8% look at caste and religion and tribal dynamics. So that's how why people are voting splits up.
That's
Got it.
interesting. It's very funny, but I'll complete the stats, then I'll tell you a funny story. How much did Tamil Nadu vote, Nivedita? Do you have any estimation?
I will guess 65 per 60%. 60%.
72%. It was
Oh,
quite high. Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
how much did West Bengal vote?
70%.
82%.
Oh man.
Again, nuts, right? And I was
Yeah.
just thinking that because I looked at Kerala also, right? So 77%. I think like all these states which are considered to be anti BJP and super, left
Uh-huh.
dominated sort of way. I think what you said, Shivam, is applies here as well, right? Which is like the
Yep.
rule of the left, which is
Exactly.
like so obsessed with people getting people involved in politics, which is
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Like West Bengal, mein, when I was there covering the elections, everyone was associated with some party. There is literally nobody who is not associated with a party, right? And I think
Yep.
that's the same in Kerala as well. Um, okay, one more question. Which was the lowest?
The
This
lowest.
I
is
know political
controversial.
incorrectness. Aega idhar.
Yeah, we might just get it wrong.
See, but go on, guess.
I want Shivam to do it.
My guess would be like, unless it's some like tinier state, I guess it would be Gujarat.
Wrong. But
Oh,
okay, Nivedita.
Oh no. Oh no. Uh you know what? I really do think it was gonna be like it would be like some North Indian state, right? But
Go on, you can say it. You can say it because you're
but
most
here's the
probably
thing.
right.
Here's the thing. Punjab is really good. I think all of
Okay.
them vote in Punjab.
Yeah.
It's like this is I'm just gonna eliminate a few states here
Right. Okay.
and say these states probably vote well. Now this is gonna be horrible. Now I'm just um I think UP also votes. So I don't think it would be that those guys. You know
Okay.
what? You know what? I'm gonna say Maharashtra.
Okay. I'll tell you which one it was, and it is actually the answer that should not really surprise you. It was Jammu and Kashmir.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want
oh,
to sound. I
I
was
yep.
mean,
that was my
I
first.
just thought it's a UT now. So
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Jammu and Kashmir,
yeah,
45%.
that
But
makes
which
sense.
was the
That makes sense.
second lowest was Bihar.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
It was 58%. And
that makes
UP
sense as
came
well.
close, actually, Nivedita, which is
Okay.
59%. And Maharashtra actually also came close, which is 61%. So,
Hmm.
Yes.
not
All right. So I was like, I
maybe.
named the states. that I
Yes, you did. You did. Congratulations on that.
thanks.
So,
Thanks. I was like some
um,
North Indian state for sure.
some North Indian state, generic North India, with their cow belt and their voting. There was this funny thing I was going to tell you. So I was covering the Delhi Assembly elections. I did a few videos, etc. as well. And this was in 2020 when pandemic was just coming in, etc. Uske pehle, just pehle. Um, Interestingly enough, we were looking at political ads that were being put out, right? Now, for Aam Aadmi Party, it was obviously like Kejriwal, 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 right? So, assembly elections. उसके पहले ही just municipality का भी elections हुआ था. बीजेपी had this very bizarre ad where इसको थोड़ी governance आता है, मोदी जी को आता है. And their entire municipality campaign in, I think, there and in Hyderabad and in a bunch of places was based on Modi's appeal, right? So the councillor is not, I mean, Modi ji is not going to come and fix the pothole in front of your house, right? Modi ji doesn't care about that pothole in Tilak Nagar. Like, I don't think he even knows what Tilak Nagar is. But or maybe he does because the Tilak Nagar is everywhere in every city. But the point being that I think this is very important when you also mentioned it, Shivam, that people voting based on the candidate versus the party. Like Nivedita, what she said was that she also looks at the party because there are only two, and they don't want one of them to stay in power for a while, so they just vote for the other one. But there's also the candidates, right? Local candidate, nahi, but the national candidate. How much does this factor in, and is it correct to factor in your vote according to your national candidate?
So it ebbs and flows actually. Like it's
Right.
not a constant thing where like the national candidate will always matter. But BJP has been very successful in turning it into a national contest. So even in state elections and local elections, people start looking at, okay, Narendra Modi at the center and how strong a leadership he is providing and things like that. So that actually reduces the impact of who the local candidate is. My own constituency in Bihar, everyone actually hated the local candidate during the 2014 and 2019 elections, and they were like, "क्या करे भैया मोदी जी के लिए वोट डालना पड़ेगा बीजेपी को, but we really don't
Yeah.
want this guy." So that has started happening a lot more nowadays. I guess it's happened a couple of times in the past where just the national narrative has been so dominant that the local candidate has mattered less. But usually, like, people should be voting at the level where their work will get done. So if they
Hmm.
have municipal grievances, they really should be thinking about who is the better municipal candidate and who is the better party to come in at a municipal level to fix things. Getting distracted by, oh, governance Modi ji ko aata hai, while you're voting for, say, a panchayat election or an urban local
Hmm.
body election actually detracts from democracy in a way, because then you're forming your voting choices based on something that isn't even real. And
Yeah.
ultimately, like a book on conjured reality. So I really believe on there not being an absolute reality per se. And whatever you think and whatever you understand about governance and politics and what's real and what's not is dependent on the information that you consume. So if the information that you consume is dominated by national level issues and national
Hmm.
parties, then that's who you are going to be focused on. That's what you're going to be thinking about. Your local problems will start seeming insignificant in front of that. So while you go to the voting booth, you might not even be thinking about the pothole. And you
Right.
mentioned Delhi urban local body elections. That's kind of exactly what happened. And credits to BJP, they actually like removed all the previous candidates and brought in an
Yeah.
entirely new bunch of people. 100% of the candidates changed. What that does is, even when you have a like very strong grievance against your local councillor, you just forget about it because that guy is gone. Some new person is
Yeah.
there. So that
That's
really helps you
interesting.
deflect the issue to a national stage.
Is that the reason why they keep changing chief ministers so quickly, like in states?
That's definitely one of them. That's definitely
One
one of
of
them.
the reasons. That's
And
interesting. Uh,
that really helped in Uttarakhand elections right now.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you
Uttarakhand. I
look
was just
at the
going to.
chief ministers, all of them individually considered horrible, but they
Yeah.
changed so fast that no one really like was able to internalize their anger against one of them.
So yeah, obviously. So they had what? Some how many?
Three.
Five chief ministers in three
So
chief ministers in 5 years or something.
yeah,
It was
three in like
ridiculous.
3.5 years. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And of course, BJP won. Thank you, Modi ji. But I was just coming to that, Nivedita. I wanted to ask you this question as well. Um, so, do you know, like, please don't feel pressured to answer this. It's okay if you don't know, because that's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Uh, can you differentiate the job of a councillor, MLA, and MP? Do you have knowledge about that, or do you think it's necessary to know about that?
It is necessary to know about that, and I don't know anything about that. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna tell
That's
you what
fair.
I think I know.
Absolutely fair. Yeah.
All
No,
right,
no,
all right.
no judgment.
Oh
Absolutely fair.
yeah, of course. No, I don't mind either. Like, you just showed a
Mm.
book about like being courageous about being disliked, and I'm there for it. I don't mind. I don't mind being disliked about this. I probably learned something today. All right. So you said counselor, MP, and who else? Wait,
MLA.
MLA.
The MLA. Yes.
All right. So I feel like your counselor is like your local body guy, the
Yes.
one that
Yeah.
the one that's in your constituency kind of guy.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you can
Yes.
approach someone who's your counselor. Your MLA is the guy in your district, the guy that takes
Okay. Hmm.
control of,
Go
I don't know.
on.
All right,
Uh,
and then the MP is the
MP.
guy in the parliament,
Yes.
who is your representation of. Oh, I already said district, so I don't know. I don't know who this guy is.
No.
He
Okay.
probably represents
Uh,
something bigger.
so it's like okay, so there is a ward which has a counselor, right?
Yeah.
uh, so the ward is your local area, to idhar ka, aju baju ka. So
Yeah.
whatever local area problems you have, like garbage collection,
Yeah, yeah. That's our
pothole
counselor. Yes.
fixing, that
Yeah.
sort of
They come and
counselor.
yell at you if
Parks,
you don't do something properly. I
yeah,
know the counselor
yeah.
because we always meet the counselor.
Oh, exactly. And that is the whole reason why the counselor exists, so that you can scream at them whenever shit is
Yeah.
not happening in your locality, right?
Yeah.
तो मोदी जी का कुछ लेना देना है नहीं, basically. That's the whole point. Then there is the MLA, which is the assembly constituency. So it's like a collection of a
Assembly.
few districts together, which become
Oh
like a
yeah.
MLA assembly, right? Yeah. Then a
Yeah.
bunch of MLA assemblies together will become a MP area, again with multiple districts as well. And then, so the MP's job is to usually raise national issues. Like
Mm.
go to parliament and raise national issues, etc.
But
MLA's
national
job,
issues
hmm,
about the state, right? About their state.
depends. You want to talk about that a little, Shivam?
Yeah, so very interestingly, ultimately the job is legislation. It's called
Yeah.
like a member of legislative assembly. It's called a member
Hmm.
of parliament. So you go to the parliament. Once you're there, you're not exactly representing just your constituency. You're trying to make laws for the entire nation. So you
Hmm.
vote on bills that come in. Once the bill succeeds in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha and gets the president's assent, it's the law of the country at that point of time. So what MPs are supposed to be doing is essentially evaluating how the laws are going to affect their constituencies, how the law will affect the state and the nation, and taking all of that into account, and then deciding what side to vote on. This function, as Meghnad and I have been discussing for a while, has been diminishing considerably, because what ends up happening is that the party usually just ends up issuing a whip. So all the MPs of a particular political party have to vote like the way the party wants. So they don't even need to read the bill that way. Like even if they do, like it wouldn't really help, because they just have to vote the way the party votes. So that function is kind of diminished. The other
Hmm.
function, as Nivedita mentioned rightly so, is to raise issues of their constituencies, of their state at the national level. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of different motions that they can file in Parliament to do this, and they can file a motion for discussion on different issues. They can file parliamentary questions about any issue that they really care about, and the government has to respond. The minister has to respond to these issues. So that's a way to put pressure on the government to act, or to give out some data that would embarrass the government and like force them to act just to prevent the embarrassment later on. That
Yeah.
is essentially what the MP is supposed to be doing. But Meghnad and I have both worked at MP's offices. So what the MP is ultimately expected to do is uh, there will be people who come from your constituency, and they'll essentially ask you for very personal favors, and they're
Yeah.
usually going to be very petty favors. It's going to be like, सर मेरा ट्रेन का
स्कूल में
टिकट
एडमिशन
कटवा
चाहिए।
दीजिए, हाँ,
हाँ।
एम्स में बेड चाहिए, एम्स में बेड
Oh my
दिलवाइए,
gosh.
मेरे बच्चे का
Yeah.
केंद्रीय विद्यालय में एडमिशन करवाइए. And some of this, like the government has designed it brilliantly to keep the MP really occupied with all of this, and the
Yeah.
MP is also happy because it's some administrative authority, so they actually get 10 kendriya vidyalaya admissions form every year, and they can get 10 people admitted. So they have like 1,000 people coming to them every year asking them for an admission for their kid in kendriya vidyalaya. They actually
Arey,
have the
what is that,
power to get.
Shivam? What is that Pradhan Mantri? Like there's this scheme, no, which is like this corpus that the Pradhan Mantri has, and you can actually get people treated from that
Yeah, yeah,
fund.
the PM
If an
relief fund.
MP, PM Relief Fund, yes, yes,
Yeah. So essentially, yes, if people have had medical treatment, if they've had some major problem, then the MP can recommend that they get money from this fund. So you have a lot
yeah,
of these requests coming in. You have a lot of requests coming in. MPs also got something called the MP LAD fund, which is MP Local Area Development Fund, which is 5 crores that they get every year to spend on their entire constituency, which is nothing if you compare it to a district
so
administration's budget or a municipal. Uh,
wait, just to give Nivedita some context here,
yeah.
the MP I worked with, his constituency had around 2,200 villages. Okay, and
Okay.
he got 5 crore rupees to spend every year on those 2,200 villages. Okay, think about that.
That's very little,
What
don't isn't it less?
exactly? What ended
Yeah.
up happening is that if you divide it up into even 1,000 villages, the money left is nothing. So basically,
Yes.
you can just build one fence in a village or something like that. But if you ended up spending, say for example, a cluster of say 10 villages pay, you will spend the entire 5 crore rupees to sort of do something meaningful, right? Then the
Hmm.
people around that village will get pissed off. You are being
Hmm.
favorable to that village cluster of villages. We are not getting anything. Sorry.
Yep. So that's essentially how the MP Lad Fund works. So it's essentially a means to keep an MP occupied. It's not something that's going to have some major effect on the development of a constituency. It just can't. The amount is so small compared to like even a local panchayat's budget that it's
Yeah.
just not meaningful in any way whatsoever. But the MP will stay occupied. So the people who were intended to legislate and make laws for the entire nations are running around doing all of these like petty things and have like thousands of requests flooding in for मेरे बच्चे का admission, इसका नौकरी, इसका hospital bed, यहाँ पे hand pump and यहाँ पे ये that they are essentially like the reason that the public doesn't understand what their job is and what their role is by design. Like the system
Hmm.
is designed for people to not know what an MP is supposed to do and to bring every kind of request to him.
Okay, I have a layman question about
Yeah.
MPs. Do they work 9 to 5, 6 days a week?
No.
Actually, more, I
So
would say.
yeah,
Like,
they
we would
work
have
a
different
lot more,
answers.
but they don't have hours.
Oh,
They pretty much decide what they're going to do themselves. They decide outside of like when parliament is functional. They decide if they want to be in Delhi, if they want to be in their own constituency, if they want to be somewhere else. There are no requirements per se, but also a major difference here versus say the United States, where the senators and the congressmen actually get an office and they get a secretarial budget to hire staff. There are senators with like 20 to 25 people in their research teams, and the US like Senate pays for it. In India, essentially, like there is no money to hire research staff. So they get a budget to hire a PA here and a PA back in the constituency, and that's about it. So the MP really cannot go through all the legislation because he just doesn't have the staff to do it. They have to work really hard. It is a lot of work. Most of them, considering they have to work in the constituency and in the parliament, end up spending like 12 to 15 hours just like meeting people and doing all of these different acts. But concerted effort in one direction, like very difficult to do as an MP.
One simple example of this would be that think about how big the constituency is, right? So on like the one constituency that I worked with was around 300 odd square kilometers. So if an MP leaves from his house to go to point B in his constituency, that is the only thing that he can do for 2 days, right? Plus the fuel ka kharcha, all that he has to pay, right? He or she has to pay. Um, Second thing, if you are say someone like PD Rai, right? Sikkim has his entire constituency.
Yeah.
The entire state is his constituency. So in the mountains, how much can he travel in a day to meet people, go to villages, etc.? So that is one factor that is always playing in their heads, right? In their 5 years, their one objective is to go to every village in the constituency, and sometimes they are not even able to do that, right? Given the distances and the schedules, etc. The second thing is, when you wake up in the morning as an MP, you will start getting calls about random things, as Shivam said, and it can be just like, अरे सर हमारे यहाँ पे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कट गया है, प्लीज वापस ला दो, right? And an MP can't say no, which is the tragic thing. Like, so if you want your electricity vapas, you have to call the electricity department, right? Or your local councillor, or even your MLA will be able to do more than an MP sitting in Delhi. But the MP can't say no. So when people come to your door asking for like an admission or whatever, you can't say no because you can't afford to upset even a single person, because that might have a cascading effect. So they will go back, they will tell 10 other people, they will tell 10 other people, and then you'll be fucked in the next elections. So an MP's job is this, right? So when you ask what is their work hours, they have to consider all of these factors. Plus they have to also think about कि अरे मीडिया में बांट देना है मेरे को. I have to be relevant in parliament, I have to do speeches in parliament, I have to understand bills. So an MP also has an alternate profession at all times, right? So there are career politicians who just do this. Their
Mm-hmm.
money comes from party or wherever else they can get it from, contract, whatever. The other kind is where they are running a professional business, like a newspaper or like an IT company. Like Amron battery owner, what's his name? Jaidev Galla was a MP. So he was running a company which manufactures batteries, but he was also doing this. So there are two professions that they are doing at the same time. Uh,
Mm.
and the funny thing is, Nivedita, one more interesting thing. In 2009, an RTI asked, what are the roles and responsibilities of a member of parliament? The
Mm-hmm.
response literally came, there are none. It's not
Oh
defined what
no.
they have to do. Yeah, like no book, no law, no statute book actually tells an MP what they're supposed to do.
They
So
just do
yeah,
what comes to them, like a freelancer kind of.
Yep.
see, that's the thing. Like while telling you what an MP does, also I'm thinking, oh, but they do that also. Oh, but they do that also. Oh, and that is also their responsibility, even though it's not. So uh, yeah.
So what does
So
it
yeah. So
mean? What does it mean when people say that an MP or like a politician is corrupt? What does it mean? Where do they get this extra corrupt money from? If it's so controlled and the amount of money that's
yeah,
going to them is so controlled, how do they hoard money or how do they get money otherwise that makes them corrupt? What does corruption mean?
Hmm.
Shivam,
So,
you want to take that?
yep, sure, sure. So, a major part of it is that the money that they get and their own administrative authority has nothing to do with their corruption. The
Mm,
corruption comes in because they are part of these like different monitoring committees, and they can basically do a lot of things in their own local constituency. So they can put pressure on local government officials to give them money for different things. The other way to do it is to actually have terrible citizen service delivery within their own constituency. Like nothing can
Yeah.
function without their people getting involved. So if you want the benefit of a government scheme, then you have to come to some guy sitting in like the MP's office or like some known person who represents the MP, and they are the only ones who will be able to get the job done. So
mhm,
you essentially destroy the normal functioning of the government. That's one way. The second way is that you just get money from the district level officials who are already overseeing administrative things, because you're part of these committees that can punish them, that can investigate
Hmm.
them. There's these monitoring committees whose meetings you actually end up attending and chairing. So there you can raise certain issues which will make people uncomfortable. So they'll pay
mm,
you to not make them uncomfortable. The third one actually is at a much larger scale, where you can potentially get money from the large businesses that operate, who just want to keep you happy so that like you represent their interests in parliament too. And
mm,
corruption that way like keeps shifting in every government. If you look at how it works now, it's probably a lot more centralized and targeted towards larger businesses than it is
Hmm.
towards like the petty cash coming from down low. In the early days like of 15 years ago, it was essentially more of getting money from local contractors for local contracts of like say 5 lakhs 10 lakhs for a small road contact, and for like painting a fence for some school in the constituency or things like that. So that's transformed a lot. But to be honest, the amount of corruption that people think MPs do, MPs really don't. You would be
Yeah.
surprised how many MPs are really honest people. You'd be surprised how many MPs are running separate careers and actually earning money from somewhere else and then putting it and using it for their political like purpose, actually giving
They
out money
have
to the
to.
people, actually buying
Hmm.
tickets for like people's railway travel, and actually paying for people's medicines out of their own pockets that they are earning from somewhere else, like their profession. So the corruption angle at an MP level actually like not a
doesn't
major thing at
exist.
all. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mm,
blown out of
It gets
proportion, way out of proportion.
mhm,
at NP level, it's also a little difficult to do also because you're like this overseeing authority, 300 square kilometers. It's a lot of area. Um, it is more prevalent in the councillor and MLA sort of systems, right? Because also, like to come back to our initial question of what is the job of an MLA. So, like MP to pata hai abhi. So MLA is basically in charge of mainly implementation, right? So. Like on the state level, the state will get certain amount of budget to execute certain things, and the MLA and the assembly at large is supposed to oversee that implementation, like that
Eh,
spending of money. And
Not exactly per se. So
I mean,
MLA,
that
like
just
an
to
MP pretty much,
broadly
does not have budgetary
theoretically,
authority. Yeah, like
yeah, but
they.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying that on a broad theoretical level, this is what the assembly's job is. But the MLA is also in charge of state subjects. Like, so assembly is in charge of state subjects. So state government is in charge of police, right? So the MLA will be more in touch with the local SHO than say an MP or a councillor, right? So because the state is the one controlling the police. So wait, you were adding something, Shivam.
Yeah, I was just saying that they don't have any administrative authority, just like an MP. They
Yeah.
do oversee things happening in their assembly constituency, but they're not the ones who have the power to sanction a budget. So essentially, like the local money that gets spent in a constituency is still through the bureaucracy. So it's still the district
Oh, that way
magistrate.
you are saying. Yeah,
It's
true.
still the
Yeah.
district magistrate signing all the files. It's still the different Bijli Vibhag and your water and sanitation department who's actually sanctioning the budgets for implementing government schemes, even in an MLA constituency. The MLA oversees it, looks at it, talks about, oh, this isn't happening, that isn't happening, but they don't have the authority to like sanction a new, say, infrastructure project in their constituency.
But in a way, if you think about it in a very indirect way, they do, because like the assembly, essentially the way assembly is made is, if a party has majority with all these MLAs, then they will elect the chief minister, and they'll pick the chief minister who will pick the council of ministers, and then the council of ministers are the ones that are approving these projects. So technically an MLA is a part of that process theoretically, but it never
So
happens essentially.
yes, but what ends up happening is that that's why MLAs really need to be close to the chief minister. If
Yeah.
their chief minister wins, then they have the authority to get people transferred, and that's when officials start listening to you. If
Oh, yeah,
the
that's also
other
true.
camp's chief minister wins, essentially no one's going to listen to you.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
So I mean,
Is transfer such a big deal? I mean, will you get transferred to a place you don't want to go, or like a place that's notorious for not being good? Is that
So
what it means to not want to be
that's a
transferred?
smaller component of it, but the larger component is that if you have the power to get someone transferred, then basically someone doesn't listen to you, you can bring in a guy who does.
Uh-huh.
So you
yeah. So
keep getting
there
people
is
transferred till you find someone you can work with.
there is a funny little article in our constitution. I forget the article. You, if you remember, tell me. That bureaucrats can't be fired. Okay, they can be either suspended or transferred. So, for example, let's look at it this way. So, PD Rai, who is in Sikkim, that government is obsessed with growing orchids, right? So, like they do like these orchid farming programs, and like they give like subsidies and whatever to grow orchids, right? Now a bureaucrat is the one who is implementing this, right? So that guy is like, oh, orchids lagana hai for a week, right? Then suddenly some guy in say Chhattisgarh is not doing a good job of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, like building toilets, and upsets the MP or an MLA, right? So this guy gets transferred, right? Who is this Swachh Bharat guy who gets transferred to say a Goa, right, to run the casino business. And then this guy from Orchid Town will come and start building toilets in Chhattisgarh.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
can't happen actually. So just gonna butt in
it
here.
does. Like,
Uh, no, no. So essentially, like bureaucrats can't even be transferred outside the state per se because they belong
but
to a
like
state cadre.
IAS officers, district collectors, this
Yeah.
happens to them all the time. Like I know
Uh,
because I've worked with a few of them. So one guy who was building toilets in Maharashtra was
hmm,
brought into Orissa to
hmm.
do like another scheme, right?
So
And
he probably came on a deputation. He probably chose to go there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
No,
So
but they
if
can be transferred as well. So like I mean, anyway,
they can be
you go
transferred
on.
within the
Like,
state. So
okay, go
an
on.
IS officer potentially can only be transferred within their cadre, or they can come
Okay,
to the central government on a deputation. Uh,
that's the
out
one. Yeah.
to a different state, they can only go if they apply to go.
Is this a thing? I did not know this,
Yes, yes,
honestly. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's interesting.
yeah,
I also
they
learn
can
new
only be
things.
transferred within the state. So the power of
Oh,
transfer is
Oh.
also
fascinating.
limited to just that.
Dude, a district collector lied to me. what the
So
Wait.
okay,
he
so I have to
he
tell you
probably
this.
chose to
I have
go.
to tell you this story. Now I have to tell you
Yeah,
this story, right? There was this guy. I won't name him. I will
yeah,
fucking get into trouble there.
yeah.
So he was given some award in like for cleaning up a constituency in Maharashtra, etc. Right?
Hmm,
Like open defecation free bana diya types,
hmm,
right? And then he said that, oh, people were so impressed with my job there. I got requests from all over the country, right?
hmm,
That I should be, oh, this ka district collector, that ka district
hmm,
collector. But I chose this one,
hmm,
because your boss is such a
hmm,
great man, which was the
hmm.
MP. Your
Uh,
boss is such a great man. I
hmm,
really wanted to
uh.
work with him and whatever, whatever.
No, so he can
And
choose to go on a
he told me,
deputation to a different state.
no, but his thing was that he was
Yeah,
called by this guy and the chief
yeah,
minister to come
yeah.
here. So
Hmm.
technically, he had no say, right? That is what I was
So
assuming is what is
so
happening here, and
he
it
had
was a
a say.
complete lie, Shivam.
He could reject it, but yeah, yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
man.
you can
And
only be
it's
sent to a different
messy.
state if you apply to go, essentially.
Okay, I did
And
not know
it's
this.
with the consent of the state government and the consent of your home cadre. Both the states have to agree, and you have to agree, and that's when you get to go to a different state.
But then you
And
can be transferred within the state, is what you're
within
saying.
the state, anywhere, yes.
Yeah.
So
So,
there
matlab, you
are
can go
actually these
from.
posts created. Interestingly, like there are very specific posts which are known to be like bad postings, and they're created that way. They're designed where like the department has no office, the department has no cars under it. So that when they post people there, like you
Oh,
don't even have like an office and transport to
It's
go
like a
anywhere,
punishment.
like
yeah,
like a
punishment
punishment.
posting. That's what it
Exactly,
is.
exactly. So there
Oh.
are places designed like this within all the states.
But I thought Chhattisgarh in general was a punishment posting, okay, till this point. Because
Yeah, no,
everybody's like,
but
oh my
it's a
god,
pardon.
Chhattisgarh bhej denge types. I'm like, what? Jungles of Chhattisgarh I will be sent to. I'm like, okay. Like, but clearly,
Yeah.
misinformation, much spread karo. To me
And
also.
okay, here's
Uh,
my question. I don't know what governors do either. Like governors are usually people from another state, right? They never
okay,
Yeah,
from your
there's someone
state.
that
Nivedita,
the central government has selected.
yeah,
They just
but
said
also we are
you're
going into like massively different territory.
tangent.
This actually gives me a good idea, Nivedita, which is great. Now I will have all these questions in like other episodes also, and I'll get other people to answer your questions as well.
Okay,
Like, what does a governor do? Maybe we can get an ex-governor to answer that question. What did you
awesome.
do, man? Like, वहाँ पे बैठ के किया क्या तूने?
That
That'll
would
be
be
awesome,
a
and you
lot of
will
fun.
have no clue that that person is coming. I'll just call you one day कि podcast कर रहे हैं. You'll come,
Oh
and then
gosh.
you'll be like, oh fuck, ये actually एक
Oh my
governor
god, I
को
love
लेके
it.
आया. I love it. This is going to be a great format, guys. But before we end this, I think we are also running out of time, so I need to end this. I want to just take just a general opinion on should voting be made compulsory, because it's a big issue, like debate, which rages on for ages. Should voting be made compulsory? And B, should voting be made restrictive? Right? Should there be like a minimum qualification for voting, which I think is bullshit, but people do have that argument as well. So let's start with Nivedita, and then we will go to Shivam. Nivedita?
I don't think voting should be compulsory, mostly because there's a freedom of expression here where,
Yes.
if there is a gap where if people aren't voting, you have to find out why and close that gap. But there's no
Mm.
point forcing it upon people, is how I feel.
Yeah. Shivam?
Uh, yeah, that's actually a complicated one, because you could potentially handle apathy with it, but then you're
Yeah.
forcing people to make a choice even when they have no opinion per se. If they don't like any of the candidates, you're still forcing a choice on them. So at one level, you're forcing them to like at least understand who's contesting in theory, but you might end up at a place where people just hit any button, and then it's like essentially a lottery instead of being a democracy where people are
That's
choosing.
true.
Because once people are forced into the voting booth, if they have no opinions, they will like just say a majority of them will pick the first or the second button, no matter who the
Interesting.
candidate is on there. So just because of issues like that, it's complicated. The other part, like freedom, is definitely part of it. Like voting has been defined as a right. Uh, if we redefine it as a responsibility, that okay, like now you're responsible for voting and you compulsorily have to vote, it also creates some kind of a burden on the citizenry. And
Hmm.
that burden can be good in a lot of ways, where people are like more engaged citizens and things like that, but it can also be like okay, 100% voting needs to happen, so parties have like a choice to essentially just like bribe people, that okay, now you're
Uh,
forced to vote and you have to go back to your constituency to vote. How about we pay for your ticket? Like,
that's
would you
true.
support us just for that?
Interesting.
So things like that
Interesting.
will start happening.
Yeah, that's actually true. Not that it doesn't happen now, but I mean, like,
I was
it'll
just gonna
happen at
say,
a
yeah.
larger scale. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, so just for information of our listeners and viewers also, I guess. So the right to vote comes from Article 326 of our Indian Constitution, which says that the elections to the House of the People and to legislative assemblies of states to be on the basis of adult suffrage. That is, it says, and there's a long explanation for what that means. Then the other thing that we get the right to vote from is Section 62 of the Representation of People's Act, which says that no person who is not and except as expressly provided by this act, every person who is for the time being entered in the electoral roll of any constituency shall be entitled to vote in that constituency. What that means is if a dude is in jail, he can't vote. That's essentially what it means. But the these are the two things that our right to vote comes from. And funnily enough, it is neither a duty, it is not a duty, it is just a right. It is not even a fundamental right. It is actually a statutory right. What it means is that it's not like a right by default, it is a right given to us by the law, and that is how we get it. So compulsory voting would actually require it to go from this to sort of what can it be, like a conscription type thing. We don't have it, but it will be like a conscription type thing, army conscription type thing. But yeah, so that is about voting, guys. I hope you learned. I did. I learned that bureaucrats can't be just randomly transferred. Nivedita, what are your overall mota thoughts on this whole thing
I
that we did?
I just understood that I'm not completely wrong about voting. I was somewhere there. I was somewhere. My reasons to vote are not completely silly. They
Yeah,
make
not
sense.
off
Yeah,
at all.
yeah. I'm just glad I'm not completely out of the scope of this show. I,
Yeah, but do you feel like whenever political discussions happen, or like people like me or Shivam start talking, do you feel excluded?
I don't feel excluded at all because at the end of the day, I'm learning. So usually, people like me, we only know about the drama in politics. When somebody does a lot of
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
really know the technicalities of politics. So usually we're influenced by the drama that happens. Oh, who's less dramatic or who seems like
yeah.
it's the big performances that politicians put up that end up meeting us
Grabbing
for.
the eyeballs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So looking at the more technical side is definitely interesting.
But
And
is
you
it
feel like
intimidating? Like, is this
I mean, I
technicality
was in the
stuff?
beginning, I'm not gonna lie. Before the show started, I was like, "Oh
Hmm.
God, they're gonna find out that I have no idea." But then once you started talking, I wasn't. Then it was easy for me to understand what you were saying. I didn't feel completely alienated. Yeah.
See, Shivam,
Yep.
what title had I given her? I forgot in the beginning only. What is she? Uh, she's
Conjuring
oh yeah,
reality.
union leader of spectators.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So no, I'm asking you these questions because again, like right in the beginning, as I said, that uh, why do we vote is such
Hmm.
a ephemeral question, right? Like you assume that people know the answer, but maybe
Mm,
they do, maybe they have different answers, maybe they don't. But when you go deeper, when you're like, oh, but what are you voting for? Who are you voting for? What is the level of government you're voting for?
Mm-hmm.
Are you basing your vote on party symbols, or is it the representative, or are you basing the vote on something like completely else, that you will get contracts, that you will, partake in this little government machinery somehow, or benefit from it? Or are you voting based on 500 rupees in your bank account? Or are you voting based on, as Nivedita says, uh, freebies or subsidies or whatever else, right? These are all important things to consider when you consider this question, which is, why do we vote? And I hope everyone here learned something. I hope everyone here had fun. I'm pretty sure Nivedita did.
I did.
Yes, yeah. She's representing the spectators, guys. She
Yeah,
better.
I had a good time. I had a really good. I feel a little smarter now after this show. Little bit, little more. I'm like,
Yes.
all right, I'm not the dumbest guy.
Shivam, any closing thoughts you have?
Um, no, I just think like we really need a well-informed electorate for a democracy to function. So someday you should do a show on how does an electorate gets its information. You've been in the media so
Oh,
long,
that's
you've covered the media so long,
fascinating.
so that's
Yeah.
probably a good show to do. Uh, Another thing, lastly, I think democracy is also beautiful because it allows people to like vent. Ultimately,
Hmm.
like if you're really unhappy, you go to the voting booth, you feel like you did something about it, even if your side doesn't succeed. And that, I believe, is a major cause for like India's stability as a nation. So we really should admire democracy for like how long we've sustained as a nation, with like the amount of diversity we have, the amount of different languages we have, the amount of problems that we have. We're still like a beacon of stability in the region, at least, and it's largely thanks to a well functioning democracy.
Interesting. I think that's a great thought to end this on. Thank you everyone for watching ELI5. If you have any simple questions that require some complex answers, I am at me Meghnad on Twitter, Meghnad S on Instagram. So you can DM me either way. Nivedita, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at niv.prakasam, and that's all. I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to give out any of my other social media.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Uh,
please follow me on there so I can get paid partnerships. But that's all.
yes. Yeah. And Shivam, where can people
Yeah.
find you?
So Shivam Shankar S on Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. It's the same thing.
Yes. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and send it to us. We have some interesting questions lined up already, but I can't reveal them because then Nivedita will find out and then the surprise will be ruined. So
Oh no.
I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.